So, tell me something terrible.
Okay, this needs to be angled more this way. Alrighty.
Touch by an angle? No?
Bad.
That joke wasn't a cute one?
It was very obtuse.
Math head.
It just keeps getting worse.
Thank you.
Okay. Are you ready to officially start?
I don't think we could do any better. I feel like that's as good as it was ever going to get.
Okay. Hi, I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Scott.
And you're listening to Tell Me Something Terrible.
Did you have to, like, throw your hand out there like you were a
real dramatic
robotic Vanna White?
Yes.
It's been a while. It's been like a week since we did one of these. Mm-hmm. Just to fill everyone in, we had a massive storm roll through. What morning was that? Thursday?
Thursday morning. Real early Thursday morning.
Yeah, like an unconfirmed, confirmed tornado.
Yeah, when we checked the weather the night before, it said 7% chance of rain. And then this storm that was only supposed to affect 7% of the region took out like tens of thousands of people's power.
And like trees down everywhere across roads. And
yes.
Yeah, it was like... Yeah,
there are still large chunks of people around us that do not have power.
Yeah, and trees down like blocking off subdivisions and stuff. It was nutty.
Yeah.
Like the craziest storm I've seen.
I can't believe no one's house really got taken out.
Yeah.
It was...
But,
it's the worst that I've seen since like the beginning of high school.
Yeah, it was a gnarly storm.
Yeah.
And one of our trees fell victim to it. So
it did.
That's what we've been doing.
And it didn't take out any buildings somehow. It only fell kind of like onto an entire like 8-foot by 12-foot patio and part of a tin roof.
One of these Father's Days, I'm going to get a chainsaw. It still hasn't happened. I've only been a dad for like 8 years now, but I'm really hoping one of these...
I'll add it to my literal Post-it note that I have on my phone that's just like a running list of things that Scott wants.
Because apparently I'm a hard person to buy gifts for.
No, you're not a hard person to buy gifts for.
I've been told
I just have a horrible memory.
Luckily, we got it all. We'll put it on wax. Is that what they say? When you used to record, like when it used to be like the wax wheels the recorders would play on.
Oh, you mean like in the tin cans and shit?
I don't know.
Sure.
Whatever.
You think I would know that? I studied music.
It's being recorded digitally.
Yep. And so next year for Father's Day, be on the lookout.
I'll get another thing of golf balls. Oh, did I get anything for Father's Day this year? I feel like I got nothing.
Oh, no.
I got my dad something. You got your dad something.
Did I?
I don't know. Probably not.
I don't remember.
Hashtag daughter of the year. Anyway, this is straight. Anyway, we have power now. So if you listened on Friday, that was our first ever bonus pod. So take that with a grain of salt the same way you take like the first
15.
Like 10 episodes we did. Like that was in that same time frame.
Yes.
So everything about it was we were on a different setup.
In a different room.
With different alcohol.
Wine.
Yeah, sleepy drunk.
I was going to say, that one wasn't the Yukon Jack yet.
No.
That was the following one.
But, so they're like, if you go to Patreon, they're like that, but they progressively get better.
Same as this.
In theory.
Yep. It's
anyway,
cute to say that it gets better.
Okay.
It doesn't.
Let's go.
Okay.
We played Uno a lot longer than we intended.
Uh-huh. And I lost often. Actually, I think every time but one.
Your Vizzy looks delicious. Should I go get one?
Yep, go get yourself one.
Are you gonna shamelessly plug something while I go?
I don't actually have anything to shamelessly plug this time.
What? Shout out our social media. We're back.
Okay, I guess I'm here to shamelessly plug our social media. Follow us on Twitter at TMSTpod, I think, ? We got a Facebook page. I don't have an Instagram because I've got like Instagram for other things because I have other stuff going on because I'm like a business owner and stuff. All right. Nope. He's grabbing snacks. He's coming. All right. He has crunchy snacks and a Vizzy.
Everyone I picked up was your gross ass strawberry kiwi ones.
They're good. I need to catch up.
Hold
clearly.
on. ASMR time.
Okay.
The was me. The rest of it was the can.
I would hope so. Otherwise,
Can you
this would
imagine?
get real weird.
That's what cans say on really middle of the road mics like we use. Shh. You got to...
What the
Is that our
fuck
child?
was that?
That was 100% our child.
How? Are you sure that wasn't a cat?
Yeah, our cats don't talk. We're not going to shush. We're in the middle of a podcast.
I just think it might be someone at the park.
You think people are just screaming at the park at 10 o'clock?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's newsworthy.
Someone's getting murdered at the pirate ship park, guys.
Yeah, like 8 people that listen actually know what the pirate ship park is. But anyway,
Okay.
carry on.
So-
By carry on, I mean start.
Yep. So this episode, I'm going with a listener's recommendation from YouTube.
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 Did you shamelessly plug that?
Oh, no, I shamelessly
my
plugged our
good-
Twitter and our Facebook. Guys, we have a YouTube. And we meant to put out the last episode visually recorded, except somebody's power went out
All of
for
ours,
some reason.
yes. So we have it. I might post that. I should post that still.
You should
I actually forgot about that because we were trying to not
die.
let our meat all rot.
When we first, so we didn't hear speaking of which, we didn't hear the branch crack at all. Scott just got real excited, and not excited, but like
I got excited about a
a
storm.
branch. You were just like, oh my God, come look at how much fell from this tree. And in case you care, it was the upper third of this giant ass tree we have in our backyard. And so he runs out to the backyard, out the back porch, and he's like, come here, you got to look at this. And he opens the back door and then real dramatically shouts, get her in the middle of the house, pointing at our daughter to put her in the like main part of our house that's like the
With good
big,
cause.
yeah, because the branch that usually sits about at a 45-degree angle to our house
It
was
faces-
pointing
yeah.
directly toward our back porch.
It's a branch that typically points south, was pointing west.
Yes.
And I'm not talking like I'm talking like one like the size of my torso.
Yes, like it's a good sized, it could be a small tree. It's probably a 2 foot in diameter branch. It was very intense.
Not
and then
2 foot diameter.
18 inches. For sure 18 inches.
Whatever size, queen. Will you
And-
please read your story?
And so yeah, it's been a rough few days in the Midwest.
Just pretty much just in our county, but
No, it wasn't just in our county. It
That's
hit
true, the
Adrian
Kalamazoo-
pretty high.
in Grand Rapids was out of power too.
Yeah. It's been rough. So this episode, now that we have power back, I decided to go with a listener's recommendation. So I'm going to tell you about the Russian hockey team that all died in a plane crash.
That's tragic. Mm-hmm. Did you know about the college football team, the Marshall Thundering Herd?
Is that the one that ate each other in the Alps of the mountains?
Do you think
All right. The answer is no.
Do you think the Marshall college football team was flying over the Alps?
I don't know.
Because they weren't.
I don't know. Have you heard about that one?
No, you never saw. They didn't make you watch Marshall with Matthew McConaughey as a football coach in high school?
No, the one that I watched was the one where some random sport team crashed over the Alps and ate each other.
Do you think they would make you watch that in 8th grade with people eating each other?
Yes! We watched it. Like 8th grade, maybe freshman year, yes.
I'm pretty sure these aren't the same movies.
All right, I am pretty sure that like 1 year difference apparently makes a huge like impact on your life.
I'm trying to think where they crashed, but I'm like 99% sure they didn't eat each other.
Yeah, you would know that. It was in the movies.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm writing that down for an episode.
The eat each other one or the Marshall one?
The eat each other one.
Okay.
What happens in the Marshall one?
I don't know. Not cannibalism? Is that not what's the word I'm looking for? Not satiable. Is that not
Sensational?
sensational? Thank you. Enough for you?
No.
Okay, good.
Cannibalism or bust.
Okay, we'll get to your story that probably includes cannibalism. you said.
It does not. It happens
What?
way too
Oh,
quick for
turn
cannibalism.
It off. Turn it off. Let's start over.
So I'm assuming you didn't look up any information after this was mentioned on a YouTube video.
No.
Okay, good. So I'm going to tell you.
I just am excited for you to pronounce Russian words for an entire podcast.
Look, I looked up I watched 2 documentaries, so I'm going to try not to slaughter them. But I've also had like
Try not to
5
what?
slaughter them.
Slaughter them.
Which appropriately, I've had 5 half shots of vodka.
Because we played 7 games of Uno,
Look.
and she lost all 7.
No.
And I'm a gentleman, so I took 3 of the shots. 4 of the shots, I took
2.
more than you.
You
no.
took 2. I had 5 shots.
Yeah, we had one before
Okay.
and one after.
Okay.
You lost 7 games.
You're right.
So you took 3.
Okay.
I took 4.
Fine.
Plus the before and
Got
the
it.
after.
The math. It adds up, I suppose.
And she always questions it.
I do every time. Just
I know one
just
thing.
for the sole purpose.
I know one thing, and it's
Just-
math.
No, it's
Leave it for me.
it's for the sole. It is the sake of argument. So anyway, I'm going to tell you about the Lokomotives. Who is the Lokomotives?
Like a train?
Sure.
Okay.
So this was the glory of Yaroslavl, Russia.
Not Yaroslav?
No, it's Yaroslavl. Look, it's Yaroslavl. Look it fucking up. I promise you right fucking now. It's Yaroslavl. VL. There's no E in it.
No,
it's
Yaroslavl. Sorry.
No, Yaroslavl, Russia. And so their pride and joy was the Lokomotives hockey team.
Choo choo. The pride of Yaroslavl.
It's too soon. They all died.
You don't think there's still a Yaroslavl Lokomotives team?
There is. It took a year to rebuild.
Yeah. This is Marshall.
But it's not
this
the
is the
original
Marshall
team.
Thundering Herd all over again.
Okay.
And Matthew McConaughey had the moral dilemma, but what to do. Come on now.
Okay. So we've moved from Nick Cage to
Wait, no, I'm not gonna tell you. I said his name 30 seconds ago. You think of it.
we have moved from Nicolas Cage to the guy who's in those car commercials. Matthew McConaughey. Gee.
Oh,
Pop culture is not my strong suit.
the like weird Lincoln ones where like he doesn't talk much and there's just like animals in the road.
He's got that very specific hand gesture.
Yeah.
Yes. So anyway, the team was one of the best in Russia and favored to win the KHL 2011 to 2012 season. Mm-hmm. Primarily, they were made up of local players from the town of Yaroslavl, and the players were were consisted of people from all over the world.
Yeah,
like
KHL is like the second league to the NHL.
the KHL apparently was developed in like 2003, so it was pretty new. Yeah, I don't know what it was before, but the Continental, starting with a K, Hockey League, from like glancing through, I wasn't paying that much attention, but I'd seen like 2003 like mentioned a few times. This is a relatively new-ish league.
Jamie would know more about this than I would, but I'm pretty sure that's the one that like Russian players will go to. Like Pavel Datsuk, I still think that's where he's
yeah, they
playing
come
now.
from. We see a lot of Russian players. We
They
also
come,
give
but they
a
also
lot of
go,
Russian
yeah.
players. Yes, because one of the documentaries that I was watching, there was an NHL hockey player that they were interviewing who was like, it was normal. People from Canada and the United States, when they went over to Russia, they were horrified to get on the planes because accidents where everybody or a lot of people died and got hurt was normal. Yes. Yes. It's bad. We'll get to it. So it was consisted of other players from all over the world, including Europe, Canada, and the U.S., and it was touted as a friendly, well-rounded, balanced team that got along with each other, and
Good chemistry.
Yes, they got along really well. It was like the pride and joy. And so even though they had their like reserves, it was just a devastating blow because of just sort of what the team and kind of what they were made of and what they represented. They'd won like 3 seasons of something previously. Anyway, they were touted to be like the overall champions of that year's season.
I love when you talk sports.
I love sports. Yay, sports.
You're like, and they had the points, so they won the games.
All the points.
On the matches with the fields.
Yep, except this is ice rinks. Know that much. Anyway.
Not hockey rinks, ice rinks.
Yes. So they were a close knit.
What do they score?
Fuck if I know. Whoa, shallow dives. Do you really expect me to look up?
No.
They won something 3 times.
Is it buckets, points, or goals?
Goals.
There you go. See, that's all I'm
Look at
asking.
me go. I was also real confused.
I was going to say, sorry, I should have said runs, points, or goals.
I was really confused. I know runs are baseball. Mm-hmm. That's it, though, right? Just baseball?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was so confused when I was watching basketball with you one time, and they said something about, like, the field goals, and I was like, whoa. We're what? What? That's the football, isn't it? Like, I was so confused. I can't handle... Mm-hmm. I'm just there for the giggles because everything sounds like a sexual innuendo.
You got to kick the balls between the uprights. Yeah.
It's so bad.
Run up the middle.
It's all bad.
He's got 2 balls in 1 strike.
Stop.
Okay. Keep going.
It's getting worse. So
he hits the hole hard. It's my favorite running back one.
Oh, no.
When a running back hits the hole hard.
Stop. It's all bad.
Right?
So anyway, it was a close-knit family, and they actually had a new coach for that season. It was the assistant coach from the Red Wings.
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
Who was it?
Brad McCrimmon. He was from Canada.
Okay.
And he left the Red Wings the year before to become the new lead coach of the Lokomotives. So he was on the plane with them.
Okay.
Give you one guess what happened.
You just said they all died in a plane wreck.
One lives.
Not him.
Not him. So the entire 36-member hockey team, including their coach, the team staffs, and the rest of the coaching staff, and the flight staff aboard Flight 9633, which was on a Yak 42.
That just sounds like a shitty plane.
Yeah. It was from literal Soviet Union.
Yeah,
Like
a Yak 42. Yeah, it sounds like it blows black smoke when you fire it up.
Yeah. So there was the Yak 42 and the Yak 40. Both of those
If you name
important.
a plane after a land animal, that's a bad sign.
I was thinking the sound you make when you throw up. Because you yak.
Yeah.
Also bad.
Get aboard the Upchuck 42. Yeah. Cool.
So it was a chartered plane, and they were taking off from. All right.
You got this.
I only heard this one said once. Tanushna, Russia, which is about 250.
Bless you.
It was about 250 kilometers north of Moscow. I didn't convert the miles. Don't ask. So
how dare you? Shot of vodka for the table.
So they took off on September 17th, 2011.
That literally says 7th. I looked down as you underline that.
You're right. It is September 7th, 2011.
The facts are negotiable here.
They are very much so.
Wait, we're almost at September 7th. We're within 3 weeks.
September's a rough month for
10th
plane
anniversary.
rides.
10th year anniversary coming up.
Oh, like ours?
No, this, because it happened in 2011, and now we're in 21.
Oh, yeah, no, our 9-year anniversary.
Yeah, so like the 10-year anniversary for this is in like 3 weeks.
Got it.
Yeah, you did eventually. Tiff doesn't drink hard liquor often.
No.
And you guys are about to find out why.
Yes.
40 minutes from now, you're going to be like, wow, that was...
She never shut the
That
fuck up.
was long. This
It
is still the
was worse
first
than
page.
normal.
This is the first page still, guys. Brace yourselves.
Anyway, so it started down the runway slightly before 4 p.m., and by 4:02, the plane had barely made it off the ground before crashing into the Volga River's banks and into the water.
Oh, it like wasn't even mid-flight. It was on liftoff?
Yeah.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So it had crashed into the river 500 yards from the end of the runway and fully loaded with jet fuel.
That seems like a really bad place for a runway. That close to a river.
The runway was long enough. The runway was twice as long enough.
The Yak wasn't... Yeah.
Wouldn't lift off. We'll get to it. So ultimately, all died on the flight, save for one, Alexander Sisov, who was the flight mechanic.
Okay, so not even part of the team?
No. Kind of. We'll get to it. So this was actually the 8th fatal plane crash that year for Russia, like just for Russia.
Okay.
And it was the 6th plane crash that was fatal between June and September.
Okay, that's a rough stretch.
Yeah. So the crash set in motion a change in regulation for the flight industry in Russia. It was a devastating blow because it was their entire hockey team, like the best hockey team. And the Lokomotives franchise sat the entire season out, so they didn't bring anybody out from the reserves until the next year.
Okay.
So the local police, who just happened to be patrolling the area, were the first on the scene. The captain of the team, Ivan.
Some of them are Ivan. Normally that's like the Latino version.
Yeah. So Ivan Tkachenkos. He was the captain. Tachenko. Or, yeah, that probably is more correct. So Ivan, his best friend, was the next on scene after the police. His name was Evgeny Panin. Evgeny.
We're going to get through this.
Every time I pronounce something wrong, Panin, like the sandwich.
That's
panini.
Yeah, those are historically Russian.
Yes.
I've heard the paninis in Moscow are killer. That wasn't even a murder joke. That was a food joke. God, everything.
So anyway, it was the cops and then the best friend of the captain and then all of the hockey fans, because this had taken place just outside of whatever city I said that they belonged to, that I'm panicking to try to find.
No, it's fine.
Yes, there's an L at the end of it.
Yep, Pavlovskal.
Yep.
Yaroslavl.
No,
Yaroslavl.
So, they all, like the fans, all wound up rushing because this was like the flight to their like first or second game of the season.
So there was like a departing party.
Probably.
Departing party?
Either that or it's a small city in Russia and everybody saw a fully fueled
giant
jet.
explosion.
Yeah, explode. Yeah. So the police had to keep
They
a barricade
felt heat for the first time in years. Sorry.
Apart from Chernobyl.
That was not in like 2008. When was Chernobyl?
I don't know, like the 50s or 60s? I don't know. You think I'd know. On my bucket list.
Your bucket list includes Chernobyl?
Fuck yes,
Why?
It does. Because it doesn't fucking matter. Who gives a shit? Oh, man, it's going to knock off maybe 3 years in your life. They give you Geiger counters. Who cares?
I just don't know if there's anything like worth seeing there.
Yeah, there is. There's a whole bunch of shit worth seeing there. Also, just for the experience.
Okay, by the way, Chernobyl. It
happened in the 80s, didn't it?
Chernobyl happened in 1986.
Yeah.
That was almost our lifetime. Mm-hmm. Like, people listening to this probably remember it. Mm-hmm. Todd. Anyway, keep That's our only listener, like, over our age.
It's not the only listener.
No, that's like the only one I know.
Of.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, verified.
Hey, anybody over 50, hit us up. Let us know you're listening.
Yeah.
Todd.
Let us know you're out there. Do you hear me? Sorry.
So the police had to keep a barricade around the crash site to keep the onlookers at bay. When the pathologist named Dmitry Pushkov arrived on scene, he described it as, quote, "The ground was burning black, small pieces of wreckage and clothing were everywhere, and in the middle of the field, the bodies of the dead hockey players were stacked." And he also said the smell of kerosene was very strong. It tastes sweet. I'll remember it forever.
Kerosene?
Yeah, that's what jet fuel is.
Is it?
Apparently.
Okay.
I don't know. I kept hearing them refer to it as kerosene, and I'm like, maybe that's your problem, guys. But, like, it wasn't.
If you would have been like, what's jet fuel? I'd have been like,
really strong gasoline?
Fuel? Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed kerosene. I had no idea.
No. And, like, the really scary part is that when the power would go out where we used to live, like, way back before we moved to Naptown, when we were living in the trashy trailer park in Michigan Center.
This is her as a child, not me.
Yeah.
Not us as a young couple.
We used to burn kerosene lanterns and kerosene heaters in our shitty,
like a salamander
14-foot
heater?
wide, trailer when the power went out.
Those salamander heaters are scary.
Yeah. Now, could you imagine? I don't want to know what sort of like additional brain
You can be around those. Those are for indoor use.
Inside of a tiny 14, it was literally only 12 to 14 foot wide.
I've been in garages for hours with nothing but a salamander heater. Not I didn't sleep in there, but
we did.
You guys are fine for the most part.
Yep.
I've met your parents. They're people. Will you keep reading your story?
People?
Yeah, you have. It's literally been 24 minutes. You're on the first page
shit.
still.
We gotta
Luckily,
quicken this up.
Well, no, I was going to say we took a week off, but that was last month.
It was. So the rescuers managed to pull the flight mechanic, who was Alexander sees off. And a different Alexander, this is not how you pronounce his name. It's Galimov. He was the right-wing player.
A right-winger, yeah.
Sure. And they were the only two survivors. Both were immediately put into a medically induced coma, and then 5 days later, Alexander Galimov died from his injuries, with over 90% of his body covered in burns.
Brutal.
Yep. The mechanic still requires medical aid to this day.
The lone survivor?
Yep.
Okay.
So along with pulling...
Does he probably have, like, the survival guilt or whatever?
I would
Can
imagine.
you stop looking at my sunburn? I know it's brutal. It's very itchy.
It is very pink.
Thank you.
I would imagine. Luckily, he was like the flight crew instead of like a hockey player.
Like a teammate?
Yeah. So along with pulling the entire hockey team out of the water, debris from the plane needed to be collected and searched for the infamous black boxes.
Mm-hmm.
So both boxes were found in the tributary of the Volga River, which is where most of the plane was resting.
Settled.
Yep. So the long and arduous task of drying out the boxes without causing any damage was the first step to determining the cause of the crash. And they had to round up to 20 eyewitnesses to question
what happened.
Yes, what had happened. There was about 20 people that had seen the crash actually happen. So according to witnesses, Jesus Christ.
You got candles on the brain?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Can I get a witness?
So according to witnesses, the Yak-42, which was designed for a short takeoff on a runway, only needed 1,200 meters to take off. So it had managed to exceed the length of the 3,000-meter runway, and then it had wound up going onto the grass at the end of the runway for an additional 450 meters before finally taking off at a sharp angle. And then it had dipped to the left, and its wing had hit a beacon tower and completely taken out that tower. And then the nose started tipping, and it wound up diving into the river just past the tree line at the edge of the Tunashna airport.
Okay.
So Russian investigators were put under further pressure when the president of Russia himself visited the scene of the crash the next day and made a public announcement that the cause of the crash was actively being investigated and that essentially they needed to figure their bullshit out. It wasn't Putin.
Who was it?
I don't know. His name started with an M. His last name started with an M. Putin took over like 2 weeks after. I Googled it. I was like,
mysteriously?
Okay. Yes, mysteriously. We figured it out, guys. It's connected all to this hockey team.
Right.
Yeah, like the accident happened on like the 7th. And then like the 24th, this president actively backed Putin to be the next. It's cute we use the word president. President for Russia after that.
It says
on like the
president
24th.
Before Putin was Boris Yeltsin?
I swear his last name started with an M.
Dmitry Medvedev?
Yep, that one.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Why was...
I don't know.
Oh, it's because Vlad had a little... Boris was 91 to 99. Then Putin was 99 to 08. Then Medvedev was 08 to 12. And then it's been Putin again.
Hey, guys, maybe we shouldn't do that. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. We should not re-elect leaders after a pause.
Yeltsin died of cardiac arrest in 07.
That's sad. Which one was that one? The one 2 times before Putin?
That was the 91 to 99 one.
Okay, doesn't matter. So Russian investigators, like I said, they were put underneath more pressure. So according to this documentary that I watched, there are generally 3 things that are essential to take off. And one of those 3 things going wrong could be the cause of an accident. So 1, the engine power needs to be strong enough to reach the thrust that's needed for takeoff. Must sound like I know what I'm talking about. I have no clue. Mm-hmm. I wrote this sober. Also, the second factor is that you need to have enough lift. So the flaps on the wings need to be extended to a specific angle to reach the lift. And then third, you need to have the proper angle of the nose of the plane, which is where the stabilizer that's on the tail of the plane comes in. It must be angled enough to lift the nose up so that when the wind
Is this
comes...
one of those sex ed classes? Just kidding. Go back to your...
I would be much better at sex ed than this.
Go back to your aeronautical engineering.
We don't do physics. I studied art. So that's sort of like where the investigators started.
I feel like I should have brought out a toy plane for you to like explain.
Angle?
Yeah. Because instead
this
you're just
needs
like...
to be lifted up this way, and these need to be lifted up this way.
You little flappy doos.
Flappies
They
on the
go this way,
wings
yeah.
and stabilizers on the tails, and the nose has got to be up just right, and they got to be reaching a certain speed.
I think people understand how a plane, it goes fast, flip it, goes up, boom.
Right, but you can't go up on too harsh of an angle.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it turns into a kite, which is what happens.
Yeah. Or you can't go up going too slow.
Otherwise, you can't get up on a high enough angle to get the
Yeah.
wind.
Otherwise, you're just popping a wheelie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So
I rode a Huffy. Sorry.
So everything was set the way that it should have been.
Okay.
The flaps were set at 20 degrees, which is the proper angle. Everything appeared to be normal for lift. It was going fast enough. They reached the speed that they needed to. The engines didn't appear to have any reason to not be supplying enough power to get the plane up to speed, and the quality of the jet fuel was fine. So why did it take so long to get airborne, and why didn't the flight crew abort the flight attempt when they knew that something was wrong? So they started with the weight of the plane, the investigation team. So they started with the weight of the plane. If the plane had too much cargo on it, it needed a higher speed to get any lift, and then sometimes higher speeds don't actually matter. An overloaded plane could just fall out of the sky.
Uh-huh.
So that's cool.
Yep.
And you've never been on a plane, right?
You know this is a fact. Mm-hmm. Yep. I didn't hop on a plane last weekend without telling you.
I would hope not. This would get...
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I did, it'd be to New Orleans to look for treasure. That's a different podcast.
Guys, if we take a break, it's because we're going to New Orleans to look for treasure.
I may or may not have solved the secret. It's fine.
So upon asking some questions, the investigative team realized that the airport didn't have any scales. So they had no way to determine how much weight was going onto the plane. Like at all. Like they had no clue. So it was...
That seems like a bad idea.
Yeah. So it was just an estimation. They were like, no, we think between the crew...
Hockey players' bags look like body bags.
Exactly.
And you've got like 40 of those. Mm-hmm. Plus, yeah.
That's what they were worried about.
Plus, you're on a Soviet Union. It's named the Yak. It's not small.
Yeah, no. This
light.
plane was literally built in the 50s, guys.
Yeah.
So that's what they were concerned about. They're like, there's no scales. They have no clue how much
wings,
the gear...
I feel like.
Yeah. They have no clue how much the gears... Like, that on top of, like, the very muscular, heavy hockey players bringing on all of these...
Hockey players are pretty small.
Are they?
On average?
Sure.
I could be a professional hockey player and I wouldn't be an outlier.
Well, then they are pretty small.
Like, okay, you have big hockey players. Like, there's hockey players like that are like 6.5 foot tall, but that's like a giant hockey player. Like, it's not like...
I just assumed every athlete in the United States is 6.5 feet tall or taller.
No. Like, basketball, like a 6.5 foot, that's like...
Exactly.
That's a small player.
And football players.
And football players, yeah, they're all ginormous. But, like, hockey players are like normal sized.
Is this why it's a primarily white man sport?
It's predominantly European sport, yeah.
White.
Oh, yes. But, yeah, no, it's very much like... If you're like 6 foot is very much the normal, like that's a normal height for a hockey player.
That's still so tall.
Okay, but I could play hockey and I wouldn't look funny out there. If I played any other professional sport, I look like a hobbit.
Also in real life.
I don't look like a hobbit. I just blend in. And I have very not hairy feet, so you're welcome.
Thank God. Otherwise, this would not have worked out.
But I do love potatoes.
We do. Well, that's a Midwest thing more than a Hobbit thing.
And we just call it brunch, not second breakfast.
So anyway.
What's the other one? Tensies?
Elevensies.
Elevensies.
Yes.
That's what time I just eat lunch every day. So.
Yes. So everything was estimated. So the investigation team was like, okay, well, we have to get a better idea of how much things weighed. So they erred on the side of caution and overestimated how much things should weigh, and it still wound up underweight. So they're like, okay, that wasn't the issue. So the next was to dig into the information that was on the black boxes, which, in case you care, do you actually know what color black boxes are?
Red.
Orange.
I was close.
Yes.
I was just stabbing it. I was like, they're probably an easy color to find in a burnt pile of crap.
Yes, black is not. I don't know why they're called black boxes. Probably because
it's morbid.
Yeah. A lot of bad information.
If you call it like the sunshine box, that seems like it's setting the wrong tone.
Let's check the sunshine box and find out how everybody died in this
explosion. Where's the big orange box? No.
So it looked like the plane had managed.
Aren't you glad we found that box? No. Okay.
No.
Wait, you said how many boxes are there? I always thought there was a singular.
This plane has 2.
Why?
I don't know.
Okay. I need answers.
It's a smaller plane.
Answer me. Sorry.
So it looked like the plane
I like how anytime I get above my normal base level,
I just ignore it.
I apologize instantly. And I don't know if that's to you or people forced to listen, but
Both.
I'm always just like, because I'm a horribly quiet person, anytime I get not quiet, I feel like I have to apologize immediately. Like, I'm sorry, everyone. That was an outburst, and it won't happen again.
Let's address your childhood. Why do you think that's happened?
Okay. This is therapy hour in minute 35 of this podcast. Also, I tweeted this out.
Okay.
We quote unquote charted on a random ass app that is a podcast app for indie podcasters.
Oh, we did. Look at us go.
Yep. So we are not like, we're not last, and we are on a chart.
We are 34, and you said there was a 21 slot
We
increase?
jumped 21, yeah.
Yeah, look at us go,
Right?
guys.
Yeah, we're making moves.
Tell your friends.
Bob and weave when you're in there. It's called Good Pods. It's like social media for podcasts. I'm still feeling it out. It was endorsed by Kim Kardashian, which isn't exactly a good thing, but it's a thing. It's noteworthy.
Yes, it is.
You can just see what like friends are listening to, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it is.
I'm not saying use it. Like, we're not sponsored. It just has us on a chart. So initially I'm like, yeah, they're cool. They put us on a list.
Yay. So they dug into the orange boxes, and it looked like the plane had managed to get up to speed, but it took twice as long as it normally should have to get there.
Okay. So it was a motor issue. Headwinds. Barometric pressure.
Are you done guessing?
Sure.
Okay.
Was there a goat in the runway?
No.
It's Russia. What?
Sorry, I thought it was a Jurassic Park reference.
That's not a goat in the runway. That's a guy in the runway.
It is. But they also put, that's Jurassic Park too.
They tie a goat.
They put the goat out.
Oh, is that the one with the guy from Shameless?
Yeah.
Why
He's
are
running
you-
out with his arm.
I thought you were like...
Cooper or whatever, and
Yeah.
he gets picked up by the dinosaur and then smashed by the
Yeah.
plane. It's fine.
Is that Jurassic Park 2 or 3? 2? Okay.
That's the one with oh god, the comedian who's in everything.
Macy. William H. Macy.
No.
That's the guy that's the dad that
He
fakes
is.
he's rich, and he's in Shameless, and
he's
you're
the
like,
guy.
it's not the same guy, but it is.
It's the guy, Vince Vaughn.
Oh, yeah, as a photographer?
Yes.
Yes. And his like little multiracial family.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that wasn't Vince Vaughn's family.
Yes, it was.
No, it was not. It was the sexy
No,
fucking
that's his...
The Fly. No, that was the granddaughter of
I thought that was Vince
Jeff
Vaughn.
Goldblum.
Oh, but they're together, aren't they, the whole time?
No, the redheaded chick who's in everything.
Yes.
Yes. Is originally with Goldblum.
I thought that was Vince Vaughn's daughter.
No,
in that.
that's not. That's
Oh,
Jeff
we need
Goldblum's.
to go rewatch them. But they're always... Anyway. Like,
No,
my memory
because she
is those two
sneaks
in
on
the
because
same...
Remember, they have the chat like right before, and they're like, "Don't get on, it's really scary, and your mom will be really mad at me."
And then they're up in like the nest thing. She's up
Yes.
with the guy with the no
who's
hair.
also in a bunch of movies.
Yeah.
God.
Anyway, all right. We got to finish this because I want to go fall asleep to Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park 2.
I don't even care.
Okay.
I'm gonna fall asleep so fast it doesn't matter.
So anyway, it took twice as long as it should have to get off of
You can
the
go watch
runway.
Camp Cretaceous. I'll fall asleep, but it doesn't matter to me. Have you watched any of those?
No.
The Lego ones
No.
on Netflix?
No.
Oh, you're
Lily's
missing out.
watched them all.
You're missing out.
Yeah, I put her in front of the television and then go and clean the house.
That It's the difference
Parent
between
of
you
the
and I.
year.
It's the difference between you and I. I get sucked in.
So the next theory was that maybe the brakes were in place while they were trying to...
Brakes?
The brakes, yes. Trying to take off.
Sorry, I was chewing Doritos.
So they started looking into any computer malfunctions that may have like re-engaged the brakes, and then they also sent out the wheels and the brakes to determine from the plane that they'd collected to determine if there were any mechanical errors. So while they were waiting on the wheel inspection, they decided to physically check out this theory with some test flights. So they boarded actual real planes to test the brakes theory. The first flight was without the brakes applied, and the Yak-42 took off exactly where it was supposed to, approximately 1,200 meters. And then they applied the brakes, and the Yak-42 took off over double that at 2,800 meters, which is exactly what had happened with Flight 9633. So the investigators received the report regarding the brakes and the wheels from the actual plane, and it said that they were fine. So there were no computer malfunctions, and there were no mechanical errors. So how was the plane struggling to take off, and how were the brakes applied? Since that theory clearly has some ground to it. They tested it. They know that is
Does
something that
affect
happened.
the takeoff distance?
Yes. So it turns out that the YAKs Services Airline, which is the charter company that the hockey team hired to take them to their first games, was soups shady. The crew for Flight 9633 consisted of Captain Andrei Solometsev and First Officer Igor
Not Igor?
Igor.
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 That's when you get stabbed in the eye.
Shivelov?
Shevelov?
Zivalov. It starts with a Z. It starts with a ZH.
I have no idea.
Yeah. Anyway, Officer Igor. And Officer Igor was the literal like manager, owner, some sort of really important executive. I was sick of looking through all of my messy handwritten notes. He's somebody really important. He is the boss of the captain. But
At the Yak company?
yes.
Okay.
But in this particular instance, being the first officer on the plane, he's technically second in command.
Okay.
Confusing, right?
Sure.
Yep. That's important.
Does he know anything about planes?
He does.
Okay.
Because he's also a captain. So you have your captain, and then you have your first officer, and then you have the flight engineer.
Oh, captain,
So-
my captain.
Yes. So there's a captain, there's a pilot and a co-pilot. You have a first in command and a second in command. The boss of the company was second in command. Got it?
Yep.
Okay. So they were also joined by the flight engineer Vladimir Matyushin. But now that you say the name of the previous president, I'm like doubting that that's his actual name.
Where's it at here?
This guy right here, Vladimir Matyushin. Right there.
Matishin?
Sure. So,
That almost has like a Asian vibe to it.
sure, why not?
They're cousins by proximity.
Yeah, kind of. if you want to include the USSR butting up next to China, sure, why not?
It's like Canada. Sorry, it was a hockey thing.
So it was their job to be in good communication and to know the exact order of hierarchy, which is, like I explained, the captain, the first officer, and the flight engineer. So what happens when you wind up with your second in command as the boss of the first in command, and there's piss poor communication before the flight takes off, and when the pilots have spotty and incomplete training, and they also have a hidden medical
Too many
condition.
cocks in the chicken.
Yeah.
In the kitchen? That's how it works.
Yep. And so then one of them wound up having a medical condition that was hidden, and that these two captains wind up flip-flopping between a Yak-42 and a Yak-40, which are two different planes, over the course of their careers. And they have almost everything identical except for the braking system. This is how you wind up with a dead hockey team.
Okay. That was a lot of information
It is
in a very long
It is a
sentence.
lot of information. So what
Is
happened?
someone epileptic or diabetic?
Nope, it's a nerve issue. So he has some sort of autoimmune nerve issue that creates less feelings in your limbs,
Okay.
which you use for brakes.
Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. So
lay it on us.
Yep. The short version of
You
this.
foreshadowed hard here.
Yes. So the short version of this 45-minute documentary that I watched.
Oh, they could have just watched that instead of listening to this at this point.
They probably could have. It's way more professional.
I'm going to stop interrupting. You go. You go. Let's run through this last paragraph. The last 8 paragraphs.
They came to the conclusion that everything was solely a pilot error and the company's error.
Okay.
So let's do a quick rundown of what was concluded by the investigation team after digging up the medical dirt on Igor, and then who was the first officer / like manager owner guy that was really important in the YAKs air service.
Yep.
So they wound up digging up the medical dirt. They found some numbers that had something to do with the acceleration. At some point it dropped to 0, and they're like, why? And then also the final statements made.
And they were like, why?
Well, they figured it out. So they also compared that to like they overlaid it with the final statements that were made in the cockpit that was found on the orange box prior to takeoff, and then the very prompt plane crash. So they believed what had happened was, since the braking systems were slightly different, where the one YAK model required just the like tips of the foot to be on the brake, and then the other YAK model required an entire foot to be sat on the brakes, it is believed that Igor had his foot with just enough pressure on the brakes of the Yak 42 to engage the brakes and slow it down.
Okay.
And since he had incomplete training on the Yak 42, that was super spotty, he wound up with like 13,000 hours of experience, except he only had 600 hours of experience on this particular plane.
Okay. So it was all Yak 40.
Yes. And the captains, which is unusual, they flip-flop back and forth between the Yak 40 and the Yak 42. So you've got that muscle memory from one plane and you're applying it to the other. Mm-hmm. This is where a lot of errors could come in. And then also Igor had a secret nerve disorder that was being treated by his doctors, and this disorder was not reported to the YAKs air service, so they had no clue that this was going on.
Yeah.
And this specific disorder wound up reducing his feelings in his limbs. So even if he did have a slight pressure on the brakes, he might not have even known it was happening. So this wound up resulting in Igor not noticing that he had applied pressure to the brakes, which had inadvertently reduced the amount of power getting to the plane that was required to get off the ground. There was also a miscommunication, and that's like a nice way to say it. I know.
Your bird.
Upset.
She's a big hockey fan, the parrot.
She's upset about it.
Mm-hmm.
You got a lot of hockey in Australia.
No.
I
know.
Okay.
There isn't.
That's the joke. She's from Australia, guys.
No, she's not.
No, she was bred in the United States, but she's from Australia. So there was a miscommunication, which actually entails no communication at all. When they do the debriefing, they're supposed to let them know what kilometer per hour they're supposed to be at.
Big fan of debriefing.
Yes. So they were supposed to... That was bad. So they're supposed to communicate what kilometer per hour they're supposed to reach before that they get liftoff. They're like, this is what we should be at. If we don't get liftoff at this point, then something's wrong and we need to abort the takeoff.
Yeah.
There was no actual communication of that. Igor was reading through the debriefing and just promptly cleared his throat instead of giving a number.
Okay.
Yep.
That seems like a good idea.
Mm-hmm. So they had no clue what the actual speed was to reach in order to take off. And partly that was because they actually didn't know how much the plane weighed, because you need to know how much the plane weighs in order to know how fast you need to go to get takeoff.
So in order to complete a formula, you need a number.
Yes.
Weird.
And they had no number because they had no scales.
See, math, full circle.
Yep.
Start with a math joke. We didn't even know that was going to be relevant.
Yep.
You might have. I didn't.
So when the plane reached 190 kilometers per hour, it was called as the right speed for liftoff by the captain, but then the flight engineer tried to correct the captain, saying that it was 205. So the plane wound up ultimately reaching 220 to 230 kilometers per hour. But when it had reached that point, it had gone so far off of the length of the runway that it was still not getting enough lift off. Even though it exceeded twice as far as it should have gone. So Captain Andre called to abort the takeoff. So the engineer cut the powers to the engine, which caused the nose of the plane to dip down. But Captain Igor, who is the second in command, but was also like the boss of the pilot, was like, what are you doing? And so Captain Andre called for thrust. So then the engineer then turned the power back on to the engines. So they were going.
The story here, kids, is communication is key in everything.
Yes, it really is. So they were going full hog. They reached where they were supposed to get to, even though it was much farther than they should have.
Full yak, not hog.
He was going full yak, reached where it was supposed to get to, and then they cut the engine, so it went from like
so
enough.
It literally was a kite.
It literally dipped
went
from
zoop,
220
plug, plug,
to
plug.
nothing.
Yeah,
yes,
horrible.
and then they pulled the thrusters back up and re-engaged the engines, and then the nose of the plane took off at too steep of an angle, so it went up way too high. The wind caught the underside of the plane, and so because it wasn't hitting at the right angle for the lift, there was no lift. So it kind of like weaved back and forth, tilted to the left, hit that beacon tower, and then promptly just nosedived into the river.
I was going to ask, did it land tail first or head first?
Head first. And because it just turned completely downwards. And since it was completely full to fly, it then promptly exploded because the engines were fully loaded with jet fuel.
Yeah.
Yes.
I heard that's kerosene.
It is kerosene. And so ultimately, that led to everyone's save for one's demise. So that concludes my very poor layman's retelling of what happened in those final moments of Flight 9633.
And it's super tragic.
It is very sad.
Like,
I think 44 people wound up dying.
And it pretty much, I'm not saying it's all that Igor's fault. Like, it's probably
a lot. So they found out
accumulation of errors, but yeah.
They also found out that the company itself, the YAK Services Airlines, kind of brushed a lot of stuff under the rug. So, like, those two captains wound up having, like, interruptions in their training. They just sort of willy-nilly signed off on things. And then, yeah, and it's not normal for pilots to jump between different types of planes. So, like, this is a plane you're trained on.
Unless you're a wasp. That's a callback to 4 episodes ago.
Yeah, it is, because bitches get shit done. Men can't handle more than one train of thought.
Whoa.
I'm just saying.
Take your feminist hat off for 1 second.
Look, I'm not wrong.
I'm not saying you are. I'm the one that brought them up. But I'm just saying, like...
But, bitch, cool it.
Do you got sources for this one?
So, anyway, wait, we have good news first.
Okay, good news.
Okay, so I thought we'd end on a lighter note. After the crash, it was discovered that the captain of the locomotives, the Ivan... How did you say his last name?
I don't remember. Just say Ivan. Captain Ivan.
Captain Ivan.
Or Ivan, depending on...
Ivan. Captain Ivan was transferring nearly 17,000 Russian monies, which I think is like Rubens or Rubios or something like that.
Okay. Potato chips.
Yep. Into a bank account of a little girl that he did not know, specifically to pay for her cancer treatments. So it turns out that this was a totally normal thing for Ivan to do. He'd done it dozens of times throughout his entire hockey career, just giving thousands and thousands of dollars to children that were dying of cancer. Yeah. So, yeah, I just figured we'd end on a happier note. That's
super nice.
Yeah. So, that's the story of the locomotives' demise. They wound up rallying the next year.
Yeah.
And this was literally announced. So it was announced on like some national game in the middle of it. The dude who's in charge
Russian
of all of this stuff. Yeah. No, it wasn't the announcer. It was like
commissioner.
Yes. Yep. The commissioner came out and was like, "Hey, this happened right in the middle of the game," and they closed the game off. And then the next year when they had wound up developing the new team, you know, bringing up the reserves and stuff, the first of their start, like the start of the game, all of them wound up like shooting pucks, like goals into the goal net thing for each death. So that was really cool too.
Nice.
So yeah, it was really tragic. So
horribly so.
Yeah. So let's do sources.
But there wasn't cannibalism, so.
Nah, everybody died too quick for that.
Yeah.
Yep. So I used 2 documentaries, The Tragedy Strikes for the Russian Ice Hockey Team by One On the Move, Mayday Air Disasters, and then Lokomotiv, Leaving the Ice by RT News. It's Russian television.
Okay.
It literally had a disclaimer at the bottom saying that it could be, that the news could be influenced by...
Government?
Yes.
Yeah.
Russia.
Shocking.
So both are found on YouTube, and then there's multiple articles. There's one from New York Times, the crash wipes out elite Russian hockey team, and from ESPN, the pilot error blamed for plane crash. That was from the Associated Press, and those are my sources. Okay. That got really long.
You do that sometimes.
Sometimes.
We also had to explain why we weren't here Friday.
Yes.
And I needed a drink. Mm-hmm. You can blame me for like 30 seconds of this.
I could blame you for like a full 5 minutes of it.
Whoa.
That was it.
What am I?
The rest of it.
Do you want me to just be like, "Hi, I'm Scott," and then click, you read us a story for 30 minutes?
Yep.
Okay. Next episode.
I am.
Tell me something terrible.
That vein.
I won't actually be here.
Good.
She's gonna read a story, and I'm gonna take a night
right off.
Yeah, I'm gonna just play video games. Whoa. What?
All right. If you've made it this far,
congrats.
We appreciate it.
And thanks for listening. And yeah, we should put another one of these out Friday if, tornado. Do they give tornadoes names? They don't.
No.
Not like hurricanes?
No.
I was going to say tornado Barbara comes through. Abraham wiped out our tree. Aren't they alphabetical?
They are.
Tropical storm, whatever.
Proud of you.
George. Has George been one? No. Hurricane Sandy's like the only thing I can think of.
How about Hurricane Katrina?
Well, yeah, okay. I meant like the first one I thought of. I know there's a, yeah. I'm not saying it's the only one. Anyway.
At this point, all of them are category 5, so it doesn't matter what you name them. They're all miserable.
Good thing you're done. You just yeeted your pen across them.
That's fine.
Anyway, thanks for listening.
Yes.
Follow us on all the socials she plugged, including YouTube that she forgot about. Just kidding.
Fuck right off.
YouTube's our tertiary social media.
Yeah, very much so.
And we'll be back Friday.
Okay.
You have a topic already?
No.
We are going to record with a patron sometime in the next week or so. So that might be...
It was supposed to be today, but life...
power outages. Yeah, things happened. So anyway, and if you want to potentially be one of said patrons on a bonus episode, become a patron. And then reach out.
Someone didn't plug the patron earlier.
And if you're like, hey, I want to... You can even tell us about something. We don't care. Unless, you want Tiff to do all the work, which is what I bank on. I rest on those laurels hard. I'm just here for the editing. I can do all mine shirtless.
I suppose I could too.
I mean, we're a visual medium sometimes, but not all the time. Anyway.
Not for that.
Our animals are circling like they need to be fed like sharks. So, on that note...
Let's open a can of Spam.
We've never had Spam in this house. We're not Hawaiian. Get out of here.
I love Spam.
Do you?
I might not be able to eat Spam.
You also love hash, which is another form of
Spam.
Cat food.
It's Spam with
cat
potatoes.
food that humans eat. Yeah. So I can understand that. All right. Enough about Tiff's weird food habits. All right. She had a bunch of vodka tonight, so there will be hash tomorrow. Look for that social media post tomorrow, and then listen to this on Tuesday and be like, that's why she had hash. Okay. Good?
Yes.
You are all disheveled over there. All right.
Life has been hard.
Goodbye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to our terrible podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or wherever you like to listen. Feel free to follow us on Twitter at TMSTPod.
And if you'd like to support the show, you can find us on Patreon at Tell Me Something Terrible.
Oof, that was terrible.